The first step in treating pelvic floor dysfunction is understanding what your pelvic floor is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of go through a little 101 on what is your pelvic floor. So this is you, this is your hips or your pelvis, this is your spine in the back and your pubic bone in the front. So your pelvic floor, in terms of kind of how I look at it, is gonna be all of the red here. So you can see that it is a group of muscles. There's also nerves and fascia and ligaments and tendons and all of these things, connective tissue that runs through it. But we're gonna kind of mainly talk about the muscles today. So it is gonna be muscle that hooks onto our pubic bones in the front. It goes and it attaches to our tailbones in the back, and then it spans side to side from sit bone to sit bone. And then you can see that it even kind of comes up side to side like a bull or like a hammock. So this is kind of an all around, kind of completes the bottom of us. This type of muscle is skeletal muscle, and that it is the same as our traps, our biceps, our quads, muscle in our body. That skeletal muscle means we have control over it, meaning we can voluntarily contract it, we can relax it. This muscle should be able to stretch and should be able to lengthen, and it can be strong, it can be weak, it can be too tight. It also can get injured like other skeletal muscle can, in that it can be torn. It can have overuse injury. It can maybe not be strong enough where it's not supportive. It can have trigger points and knots, maybe like we get in our shoulders. And so there's a lot that can go on here. But because this is an area of a body that maybe it's a little bit taboo, there's some people that don't really know what's going on down there, that we can be unaware, where symptoms can almost manifest themselves worse. So that is kind of what our pelvic floor is. Now, what it does is many things. The first thing is it opens and closes all of our holes. So you can see here, we have our anus here, we have our vaginal opening here, and then we have our urethra here. So you can see that we have muscle that literally encapsulates and circles all of these holes. And so it is responsible for opening and closing. So you can see that if we have any maybe dysfunction or this isn't working right, it can manifest itself in maybe I'm losing urine when I shouldn't, or maybe I'm unable to evacuate. I can't empty fully. The other thing is maybe we have pain with penetration, in that we have pain with sex, we have pain with inserting tampons, anything else that we're putting inside of us that hurts, because maybe we have some tightness, whatever kind of going on there. So those are all ways that we kind of screen. The other thing that it does is it supports our organs. So I don't have them here, but right on top of our pelvic floor is going to be our bladder is in the front, our vagina is behind that, and our rectum is right behind that, and they sit directly on top of this. So do you see how if we have maybe some loss of tension in our pelvic floor here, that those muscles aren't going to be able to hold and support those organs like they should. And this can manifest itself in things like pelvic organ prolapse, pressure in our vagina. We see a bulge, we can't hold our tampon in anymore because our pelvic floor isn't maybe supporting the way that it should. Another thing that our pelvic floor does is it stabilizes our pelvis. Look, it literally goes from one side to the other. It goes all the way up our tailbone. And so that these muscles, when working correctly, can help to stabilize our hips. So again, we can have symptoms manifest themselves, not in peeing on ourselves, but what if it's chronic SI joint pain, or maybe tailbone pain? What if it is, back pain that just kind of really never goes away, or, kind of maybe comes and goes and no one's really been able to help it. And so pelvic floor dysfunction can manifest itself in that way as well. Another thing that our pelvic floor does is it is a part of a bigger system, and that it acts as a pump, and that it works in conjunction with our diaphragm, which our diaphragm is going to be a muscle right on top. So it's like the top while our pelvic floor is the bottom. And then we have our transverse abdominis, which is a muscle that wraps around. And so all of these guys kind of work together to create this pump, or this pressurized system, to support things like our belly in pregnancy, or breathing, or just the ability to get up and get out of bed. So a lot of this is going to be kind of unconscious work that our pelvic floor is doing. But again, when we've had babies and we've pushed through and maybe we tore or whatever that is, for whatever reason, we have muscles that just really aren't doing what they need to do, it can manifest itself in things up the chain. And that's where we're getting into like maybe some diastasis recti, some kind of splitting in the middle of, we can't just treat the front without looking at the pelvic floor as well, because we know that one of its core jobs is to help pressurize that system. So that is a little glimpse into what your pelvic floor is, what it does, and maybe ways or different things that might manifest for you of if maybe we have something going on with our pelvic floor. So if you have any questions, please reach out. I'd love to answer those for you. And next time, maybe grab a little mirror or something, take a look down there, see, what do you see? Can you see this? And get to know that pelvic floor a little bit more.